Stay with me, because what you are about to hear is one of the most emotional behind-the-scenes stories you will ever experience. Bai Lu's message to her co-stars did not just touch hearts, it shattered expectations and left even the strongest cast members speechless. And if you want more powerful emotional stories like this, make sure you subscribe because this one will stay with you for a long time. The studio lights had long been switched off, yet the air still carried the energy of the day. Empty chairs stood in quiet rows and scripts lay scattered across the table as though still breathing with the tension of rehearsed emotions. It was late, far too late for anyone to still be there, yet Bai Lu remained seated on one of the wooden benches backstage. Her hands rested over her lap, trembling just slightly as she stared at her phone screen. A message she had drafted and redrafted sat there in silent readiness. She had not planned to say anything. Not today. Not this week. Not even this month. Yet something inside her had shifted. The project had pushed her, the scenes had drained her, and the emotions she had carried for so long had begun to spill beyond the script's demands. She knew she had reached the moment where silence would no longer hold her together. Outside in the corridor, faint voices approached. Footsteps, soft but growing clearer. Her co-stars, Dylan Wang, Shen Yue, and Miles Wei, were coming back into the studio, still discussing the final scenes they had filmed earlier that day. Bai Lu straightened herself. Her heart raced as she stood up slowly. She knew that if she did not speak now, she never would. When the trio walked in, laughing lightly about a blooper take, they stopped almost instantly. Something about Bai Lu's expression froze them in place. Her eyes were red, not from tears yet, but from exhaustion that went far beyond the physical. Shen Yue stepped forward first, her voice gentle, asking if she was all right. Bai Lu nodded, though the truth was more complicated. She asked them to sit. The seriousness in her tone hushed every sound in the room. Dylan leaned back in his chair, sensing that whatever was coming was more than a simple announcement. Miles rested his elbows on his knees, watching her with full attention. Bai Lu took a breath and finally spoke. Her voice was fragile but sure, like a flame that refused to be blown out. She said she had something to share, something she had held inside throughout the entire filming process. At first the room remained still, the kind of stillness that makes every heartbeat feel loud and every breath feel heavy. She began talking about their journey. How the project had tested her limits, demanded her vulnerability, and forced her to dive deeper into emotion than she ever had before. She said that every day of filming had shaped her in ways she could not describe with simple words, yet she would try anyway. She looked at each of them, one by one, and expressed how much they had meant to her in ways they could not possibly imagine. Then her voice broke. A soft crack, barely noticeable, but it changed the entire atmosphere. Miles looked down, already sensing the weight of what she was holding in. Shen Yue covered her mouth with her hand. Dylan shifted slightly, eyes narrowing with concern. Bai Lu explained that during the most intense scenes, when she felt she could not give any more, it was their presence that pushed her through. Their encouragement, their silent support, the way they noticed when she was struggling even when she tried so hard to hide it. She said they had become her strength without ever being aware of the impact they had. When she said she had not been okay for a long time, the silence turned sharp. She admitted that she had been carrying heavy emotions from her personal life, emotions that leaked into her character and sometimes overwhelmed her. But instead of breaking alone, she found herself held up by them, even when they thought they were just acting, just doing their jobs. A tear fell from her cheek then. It was the kind of tear that carried meaning, stories, and memories she had never spoken out loud. She apologized for the moments she seemed distant, for the days she shut down, for the times she snapped without meaning to. She said she never wanted them to think it was their fault. It was her own battle, but they had unknowingly been her lifeline. Shen Yue began crying quietly, her shoulders shaking as she listened. Miles blinked rapidly, fighting tears that threatened to spill. Dylan's jaw tightened, and he looked away for a moment, overwhelmed by the raw honesty unfolding before him. Bai Lu continued, saying she had written them all messages many times, trying to express her gratitude, her love, her appreciation, but she could never send them because the words felt too heavy for a simple screen. She felt they deserved to hear her heart directly, not through a text. She said she was grateful for every smile they brought her, every moment they made her laugh between takes, every time they placed a comforting hand on her shoulder without asking questions. The room felt smaller now, as though pulling them all closer to her emotions. The weight of her confession seemed to hang above them. Even the air felt charged with a quiet electricity as she revealed something none of them expected. She told them she had almost walked away from the project. Twice. She had felt overwhelmed, scared, and lost. But each time she was ready to give up, one of them, without knowing, had pulled her back through a simple gesture. A joke from Dylan. A warm drink from Shen Yue. A quiet encouraging sentence from Miles. They had saved her spirit without realizing they were doing it. Her voice trembled again as she said the words that broke the room open. She said she loved them. Not romantically, not dramatically, but deeply, sincerely, with the kind of love that grows in silence and blooms through shared struggle. She said they were not just co-stars. They had become a part of her life that she would carry forever. Miles wiped his eyes. Shen Yue stood and hugged her tightly. Dylan finally exhaled and walked toward her, pulling her into a firm embrace that spoke louder than any words. The three of them held her, surrounding her with warmth and silent understanding. It was not a scene for cameras. It was not scripted. It was raw, real, and unforgettable. The moment stretched into minutes. No one spoke. No one needed to. The emotional message she had carried for so long finally found a home. As they pulled away, Dylan said she did not owe them anything. Shen Yue whispered that they all needed each other more than they ever admitted. Miles told her that her strength inspired them just as much as she believed they supported her. They promised to be there for her, not just on set, not just during scenes, but in life beyond the cameras. The night ended with laughter through tears. Lingering embraces. Promises made with quiet sincerity. They walked out of the studio as co-stars, yes, but now as something far deeper. Something the world rarely sees but always hopes is real. And soon, word spread across the industry. Not the details, but the feeling. The energy. The bond. The truth that Bai Lu had spoken that night shaped their entire journey moving forward. It became the beating heart of their work, the unspoken anchor of their performances, the reason fans felt their chemistry so intensely on screen. Bai Lu's message was more than emotional. It was transformative. And for the first time in a long time, she felt peaceful. The silence that followed Bai Lu's emotional confession in part 1 did not fade quickly. It stretched through the room like a warm yet trembling echo, as if every word she had spoken was still suspended in the air. Dylan Wang stood a few steps away staring at her with an expression that mixed confusion with admiration. Shen Yue was frozen completely still. Miles Wei was the only one who dared to take a slow breath as though he was afraid to interrupt the fragile moment that now held all of them together. Bai Lu kept her eyes lowered. Her hands trembled slightly, and her voice cracked as she said she was not done speaking yet. She said the message she gave earlier was only the surface of what she truly felt. She said she had been holding something deeper inside her heart for far too long. At that moment the entire room shifted. Every camera stopped rolling. Every staff member stepped back. It was no longer a set. It felt like a confession room and they were all inside it together. Then she lifted her face. Tears shimmered in her eyes but she did not wipe them away. She let them stay because for the first time she wanted everyone to see that she was not trying to be strong. She wanted them to see the real her. She took one step forward and her voice lowered into something raw and honest. She said she had been carrying the weight of misunderstandings and silent struggles. She said she had lost sleep for days because she felt she was drifting away from the people she once trusted the most. Her words cut into the quiet as she admitted that fame had a strange way of separating people. She said the pressure of acting perfectly on screen had forced her to hide her imperfections off screen. She said she pretended to be cheerful so no one would worry. She hid her fears so no one would judge her. She carried pain because she did not want anyone else to carry it for her. Shen Yue stepped forward at that moment. Her voice shook as she whispered that she had always sensed something was wrong but never knew how to ask. She said she thought Bai Lu wanted space. She said she forced herself to stay away because she did not want to interfere. The tears that slipped from her eyes were soft and silent as she looked at Bai Lu with guilt. She said she had never wanted to hurt her. Dylan moved next. He let out a long slow sigh and admitted something no one expected. He said he had been jealous. Not jealous of her success or attention but jealous because he felt like he was losing her. He said he thought she no longer needed him. He said he thought she had chosen other co-stars to lean on. His voice broke as he said it was not anger he felt but fear. Fear of being replaced. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of losing someone who meant far more to him than he ever said aloud. Miles Wei finally spoke last. His voice was quiet but steady. He said he had been hiding his own pain. He said he had been struggling with private battles. He said he had pushed everyone away because he did not want anyone to see his weaknesses. His eyes softened as he looked at Bai Lu. He told her that her message was not just emotional. It was brave. He said she had done what none of them had managed to do. She had spoken the truth. The atmosphere in the room shifted again. It no longer felt heavy. It felt open. It felt honest. Bai Lu breathed in deeply for the first time and said she was grateful. She said she wanted all of them to understand that her message was not meant to hurt anyone. It was a release. A plea. A way of reaching out when she no longer knew how to ask for help. She said she wanted the bond they shared from the beginning to return. She wanted to laugh with them again. She wanted to trust them again. She said she was tired of pretending. Slowly Dylan stepped closer until he was standing right in front of her. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said that she was not alone. He told her she had never been alone. He said they were all just scared in different ways. Shen Yue walked up beside them and wrapped her arms around Bai Lu softly. Miles Wei joined them with a sigh that sounded like relief. One by one their hearts unlocked. One by one their walls fell. They held each other for a long quiet moment as though that single embrace could rebuild everything that had been broken. Then something happened that none of them expected. The director entered the room. His eyes were full of emotion because he had been watching from outside. He said that what they had shared was more powerful than any scene they could ever film. He said the honesty in their voices was real and rare. He said he wanted them to keep this bond alive not because of the show but because they deserved to have each other in their lives. Bai Lu wiped her tears and finally smiled. It was a real smile. A soft one. A quiet one. The kind of smile that appears only after a storm has passed. She looked around at all of them one by one and thanked them for listening. She thanked them for understanding. She thanked them for reminding her that she was not as alone as she thought. Hours passed. Conversations deepened. Laughter returned slowly but surely. The tension that had once filled the room dissolved into something warm. Something genuine. Something human. And as the night settled outside the studio they all made a promise. A promise to speak up more often. A promise to support each other beyond the cameras. A promise to stay connected no matter how the world tried to pull them apart. It was a simple promise but it carried the strength of everything they had gone through. By the time they left the set together side by side fans waiting outside could already sense something different. Something stronger. Something unbreakable. The moment pictures of them together surfaced online the entire fandom exploded with reactions. People said they had never seen them so close. People said the bond looked real. People said something had shifted among them and they were right. Because in that long emotional moment Bai Lu had not only delivered a message. She had created a turning point. She had opened a door to healing. She had changed everything. And from that day on the cast was never the same again. They were closer. Braver. More honest. More connected. And every scene they filmed carried the echo of that night. A night of truth. A night of reconciliation. a night that brought them back to each other. The emotional message that started everything became the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter none of them expected but one all of them needed. And the world watched in awe as the bond between them grew stronger than ever before.